From communism to independence, war and now integration, Croatia marks a turning point as it joins the European Union. But its economy is under pressure, and so is the EU's. So is it really the right time for country and bloc to be joining hands? The European Union and its newest member. This is Inside Story. Hello everyone, I'm Kamal Santamaria. Membership has its privileges, as they say, and that's what Croatia will be hoping as it realises its ambition of becoming a European Union member. It'll be the 28th member state, the first since Bulgaria and Romania were admitted back in 2007, and will open the door for much-needed investment in a country facing its fifth year of recession and 40% youth unemployment. The thing is, the EU's no model of stability itself these days, leading us to question who exactly is getting the better deal here. Here's Croatia on the map first, at the point where Central Europe turns into Eastern Europe, just across the Adriatic Sea from Italy, with plenty of neighbours as well. Bosnia, Serbia, Hungary, Slovenia all share a border. In fact, that Croatian border will be the longest land border in the European Union. And opening up that border, figuratively and literally, is what this EU membership is all about. But how does it stack up for the country and for the bloc? Well, Croatia's the obvious winner. It stands to get some $15 billion of EU financing, albeit with conditions. And it'll get access to larger EU markets with the prospect of foreign direct investment. The EU, for its part, gets more stability in the Balkans, slightly larger market and less hassle at the borders. On the flip side, though, critics in Croatia argue they're joining a bloc whose own economy is pretty fragile, and some fear the EU's market will be too competitive. Opponents in the Union say Croatia's corruption and its economic weakness pose the biggest threats, and any mistakes could jeopardise the EU ambitions of other Balkan states and places like Turkey as well. Our discussion in just a moment. First, Tim Friend sets the scene for Inside Story from the Croatian capital, Zagreb.
Croatia has gone through 10 years of tough negotiations to qualify for EU membership. Essentially, it's had to smarten up its act in terms of human rights, reform of government and the judiciary. So this is very much a changed country from the one that started this process 10 years ago. Perhaps there's less corruption. Certainly it's a country still having to deal with the legacy of the Balkan Wars. But the challenge here in most people's minds at the moment is the economy. The country's in recession. It has been for several years. There's high unemployment, particularly amongst the young, and it's an aging population. So will the new EU membership offer new opportunities for Croatian business, or will it be overwhelmed by the new shared market? Behind the celebrations here, these are the kinds of questions that are being asked. Tim Friend for Inside Story, Zagreb.
So plenty to discuss with our guests. In Zagreb is Davor Gennaro. He's a political consultant and former advisor to Croatia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And in our London studio, Petros Fasoulas, who is the chairman of the European Movement in the UK, a lobby group that campaigns for closer integration across Europe. Gentlemen, welcome to Inside Story. I think the first thing we've got to point out is that this EU version 2013, if I call it that, is very, very different from the one that Croatia signed up for, 12 years ago. It started this whole idea. Davor, if I come to you first, though, it's still a better deal for Croatia, isn't it? Even with all the changes in the EU and the Eurozone crisis and all these things, it's still a pretty good thing for Croatia, isn't it?
Of course, it's a situation that Croatia is getting more security, grant both economic and political prospect. Now it has better chances to have kind of influence on the region and a kind of return back to Central European region and build the new structure of economic and energetic relations and solutions.
So what's the thing that you think, Davor, is the most important thing that Croatia can get out of this? Is it the money? Is it trade? Is it access to the rest of Europe? What's the thing that clinches the deal?
It depends what's your point of view, but for Croatia, who was facing the war only 15 years ago, stable peace and sustainable peace is most important issue in a framework of European Union. For Croatia, the next process of enlargement of European Union towards Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, Macedonia is a mostly important issue because it makes us guarantee that there will be no further war or hostility in Balkans region.
And just quickly, Davor, flip it around for me and tell me what it is that Croatia brings to the rest of the EU.
Croatia brings the whole Adriatic Sea in European Union. That's maybe kind of change for EU, like it was a change with Danube being a real European river in a full sense with enlargement in 2003. The next important issue is the fact that Central European region from Baltics to Adriatics is becoming completed now. The other important issue is the fact that Croatia has some knowledge about processes in Balkans and can be helpful in stabilization, especially of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is, I think, the most important issue for European Union at the moment. Then our political knowledge, I hope, can be transferred also to Serbia and Montenegro, and to help those countries in processing of negotiation with EU, so those countries could be more efficient in that process than Croatia was.
Okay, Petros Vasoulis, let's bring you into the conversation. The way that Davor described it, it all sounds pretty good. The fact is, though, and I pointed this out in the introduction to the show, you've got not one but two groups here, the country and the bloc, Croatia and the EU, both with difficult economic problems at the moment. Timing's not great for this, is it?
I think actually timing is perfect for this. It demonstrates the success of the European Union project. There are countries lining up eager to join, and I think including a new member in a family couldn't be a more optimistic signal to send to the whole world. Let's not forget that you mentioned that the Eurozone is in trouble, but Latvia will be joining the Eurozone at the beginning of next year. So the symbolism here is very, very strong. And of course there is another element, if I may. The project of European integration has reconciliation in its heart. At the early 50s, European nations came together to reintegrate Germany and reconcile it with its neighbors, not least France. Something similar is happening in the Western Balkans. In the context of European integration, we're seeing the reconciliation of countries that used to fight not so long ago. And I think that's a very powerful and optimistic message for the future.
But Petros, you talk about countries joining and the positive signs and the positive symbolism that puts out there. The fact is, these are long processes. I mean, this has been 12 years in the making, so it's obviously not something that Croatia would pull out of at the last second because of an economic problem. But still, you are adding what is, at the moment, a weak economy into an already weak bloc. And we've seen already the problems that come from these weaker economies and what they do to the whole region.
It's a fact that everybody who checks into a club brings luggage with them, and Croatia is doing that too. But the whole idea behind the long process of accession negotiations and preparations is to make sure that the country is as well equipped as it can to make the most of EU membership. And we shouldn't forget that there are a lot of very prosperous parts of the European Union. Germany, Holland, the Scandinavian countries, some of the Baltic countries are emerging fast out of the crisis, and of course countries like Poland, who have seen growth throughout the crisis. So I think we shouldn't see this in black and white terms. There are a lot of successful members of the European Union, and I think Croatia has what it takes to overcome its problems through economic cooperation within the European Union.
Gentlemen, let's just think about everything Croatia's gone through to get to this point. This is for our viewers as well, remembering Croatia born out of the disintegration of Yugoslavia and the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. I want to take our viewers through this. That independence from the former Yugoslavia 22 years ago, 1991 it was, followed by 4 years of war, pitting Croat forces against Croatian Serbs aided by the Yugoslav army. You fast forward though to February 2003, and this is what we were just talking about, Croatia submitting its formal application for EU membership. That process was held up by concerns over war crimes, border disputes and corruption as well. There was some progress on the international front though. This was 2009 when Croatia became a full member of NATO. And earlier this year, Croatia elected its first members of the European Parliament in anticipation of where we are now, and that is formally joining the EU. Davo, let me come back to you in Zagreb. Just on the point of those European parliamentary elections which happened in April, as I see it, they only attracted 21% turnout. Is that sort of apathy towards the EU idea, or was it just not viewed as terribly important?
The main problem is that Croatian people have a problem with political institutions at all. They have a problem with political elites, with domestic political elites, and that low turnout on those elections was, in a first place, message to domestic political elite. That campaign before elections was misleading, and actual government had an interest that turnout on elections would be as low as it possible. So, because they thought that that will make a guarantee for their good result. It was a very mistaken judgment, and people in a way had understood that judgment. Mostly Croatians are in favor to enlargement. They are mostly satisfied with the fact that Croatia is joining EU, but they don't have such a huge expectations as they had in 1991 when they were facing with independence of their own state.
Right. Petros, let me come back to you in London. Just something else I mentioned when we went through that history of Croatia was the concerns that the EU has had in the past. Things like, and I'll mention them again, war crimes, border disputes and corruption. Do you feel those things have been addressed? Well, presumably they've been addressed enough because Croatia is going into the EU, but do you feel they've been addressed properly so that they're not a problem going forward?
You know, Croatia has gone a long way from the troubled years of the 1990s, and some of the key issues that your report highlighted have been addressed to a large extent. But we shouldn't hide behind our figure. Corruption in certain areas is still an issue. I believe that the German Chancellor Angela Merkel will not be attending the celebrations for accession in Zagreb because there is a disagreement over the handing over of an alleged war criminal. So there are still issues pending, but those issues are better resolved within the family and within the club. Nothing, of course, is going to become absolutely perfect from one day to the next, but we shouldn't underestimate the amount of effort that Croatia and the Croatian people have made to live up to the very high standards that the European Union expects from its member states.
Can the club help with dealing with these sorts of issues?
Certainly it can, absolutely. I think there is a lot of know-how going into Croatia as we speak, both in the context of accession, but also after becoming a member state of the European Union. And I have the feeling that the process of political normalization that it takes place in a country after it joins the European mainstream changes the perception of both of the political elites and the electorate, and it changes the conversation that those two are having within our country. Politicians are under check from their peers in the European Union level. Citizens have the opportunity to travel more freely within the European Union, understand and appreciate how things are done in other places. So they put more pressure on each other, and it certainly improves the political conditions as much as the economic conditions within a country.
Gentlemen, let's pause again and get some more viewpoints. Croatia's president, first of all, who's convinced that joining the EU is the right thing to do. Ivo Josipovic said, from an economic point of view, there is indeed a crisis, but I think we are stronger together. This is what Petros has been saying to us, and that the crisis did not originate from the European Union itself, but rather from the economies of a few specific countries. That's why I think that to put an end to this crisis, we need more Europe, not less Europe. That's what the leader says. Here is what some Croatians have had to say about their country joining the EU. Have a listen.
I'm afraid everything will go far, far too expensive than it used to be. So I don't think it's going to bring anything very, very useful to us. Maybe I hope it will bring law and order, because that's what we need.
People think that the European Union is great and super, and that the grass is greener over there. But in fact, I think that the grass there is equally yellow, as it is here.
I think that it's a good thing that we are entering the EU because we get a better connection with the other European countries. There won't be borders to cross, and the EU can bring us a lot of money to develop the country.
It's very important for us as a small country to be part of something big like a European Union. But this is what I thought maybe a few years ago. Now I'm a little bit scared because the experience of other small countries that takes part of European Union are not very positive.
Petros, I know that was only 4 voices that we heard there out of a population of millions. However, what I got from all of them, there was some positivity, but there was hesitation. Do you think that's just because of what we see in the European Union and the Eurozone now, or that these feelings might have always sort of been there?
Of course, I think the economic crisis has brought a sense of insecurity across the European Union, and that couldn't leave unaffected a country that is about to join the European Union. But there are some tangible effects that citizens of a new member state can enjoy. The cost of roaming, for example, using your mobile abroad, will go down about 15 times compared to today's prices for the average Croatian who is traveling around Europe on holiday. Also, a Croatian who wants to go abroad and study, he or she will be able to enjoy the same kind of benefits that natural students from that country are enjoying. And all those things make a hell of a difference in the everyday life of a citizen. But I totally understand and echo the sense of unease that people have with their political elites who are struggling to resolve the problems that affect them directly. It's not an issue of the European Union, it's an issue of politicians not being able to deliver for their people. And we have to work closer together to do that collectively.
Davor, can I come back to you and ask you a bit more about the wider economy? Seeing as you are there in Zagreb, you can give us a first-hand view. As I see it at the moment, the Croatian currency, the kuna, is already in line with the euro. So it's perhaps not going to be a huge step up when Croatia eventually does adopt the euro itself. Do you think, though, again, and this relates back to all the problems we see in the Eurozone right now, that there is some concern about taking that step into the Eurozone eventually?
Croatia is preparing herself for being the member of Eurozone in a short time period. Kuna is more or less on the same exchange rate with euro for last 10 or 15 years. Monetary policy was always oriented only on stability of currency and not in a way to help national economy. And Croatia is, only 0.5% of European GDP and 1% of European inhabitants. So Croatia cannot influence a lot on stability of Eurozone. Croatians hope that a kind of European control over their budgetary and financial policy will help the country to perform stability in future. So as far as I see, both President of Republic and Governor of National Bank are talking about making Croatia the member of Eurozone in a period as short as it possible.
But that's going to be the problem, isn't it? Because right now, I mean, it's generally, I think they've got to do it within 2 years. They obviously want to do it sooner. But right now, Croatia's only meeting 2 out of the 5 criteria that a country needs to meet to actually join the Eurozone and take the currency up. The economy is just not strong enough at the moment.
The economy is not strong enough. The budgetary debt is too huge, and Croatian economy is still not stable enough for that step. So I don't think that there is any possibility to do that step in the next 2 years. But concentration on those criteria on one side and criteria done by a European fiscal semester, it will help Croatia to make sustainable fiscal stability and to consolidate her own fiscal situation.
Okay, let's start getting some final thoughts, and I'll go back to Petros in London for this. Petros, I wonder if this is almost a test for the European Union at the moment. This is the first country that will be admitted since 2007. 2007 was just the beginning of the financial problems. It wasn't anywhere near as bad as things have been in the last couple of years, or even right now, you might say. This kind of needs to work for the European Union, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And there is an element of fatigue around the process of enlargement in the European Union. There are a lot of member states and a lot of people within those member states that are arguing that the European Union should take a break in the process of enlargement, especially when considering countries like Turkey. But I think the process of enlargement has been one of the most successful projects that the European Union has undertaken. It has helped transform the south of Europe, the center of Europe, Eastern Europe. It has brought stability in the Balkans. And it's imperative that we continue keeping the door open for all those countries that aspire to join the European Union and sign up to the high values that they represent. So I agree with you, it is an important test, and it should remind to everyone how important the process of enlargement is and how crucial it is that we keep that process going.
And I guess the thing to remember as well in the back of our minds is that, and I've pointed this out already, it takes a long time. We're not just talking about ascension right now. This has been, for Croatia, 12 years in the making. Who knows what the Eurozone will be like, or the European Union will be like, in another 12 years.
Indeed, it's a project that is constantly evolving, and in historical terms, of course, 12 years is not such a long period of time, considering the task at hand especially. But we should be doing this the right way. Certain things took place in the European Union perhaps too fast and without the proper architectural structures in place. And I think when it comes to encouraging and helping a country to join the project of European integration, we need to take all the time we can take. And of course, you're right, in 10 years' time, the European Union and the Eurozone itself will be completely different, and hopefully Croatia will be a successful member state at the very core of decision making.
Davor, final thought from you. Is there a good feeling there? You're there, we've heard the sound behind you of the celebrations and the preparations for the big moment. Are people excited in the end?
In a way, no. The political class is excited in Croatia. People are, in a way, had some kind of fatigue with all the politics, and they are, in a way, tired of the long-term process of negotiation and enlargement of EU on Croatia. They are, in a way, afraid of domestic economic crisis and crisis in the European Union, but they are more or less happy because of that element of stability and hope for progress. What is membership in EU bringing? So the feelings of average people are in a way mixed.
Happy or not, it is history in the making, isn't it? Croatia joining the European Union. I want to thank both of our guests there. Davor Gennaro was a political analyst joining us from Zagreb, and we also had Petros Fasoulas, who is the chairman of the European movement in the UK, joining us from London. Gentlemen, thank you to both of you. Don't forget, you can find this programme and many more at aljazeera.com. You can also head to facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can leave your comments there for us as well. I'm Kamal Santamaria from the whole team. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye for now.